My daughter announced, "I'm dropping out to marry my boyfriend. You can't stop me at 18." I wished her luck and stopped paying for her college fund. 6 months later, when he left her pregnant and broke, she was back at my door asking about those education savings. I'm Melissa, 45 years old, female, and I've been saving for my daughter's education since she lost her first tooth and insisted the tooth fairy pay directly into the college jar. Ava, 18 years old, female, used to fall asleep in my lap during campus tours we watched on YouTube. Tiny socked feet, thumb pressed to her lip, asking me, "Which one looks like me, Mom?" Back then, it was a game. We put brochures on the fridge next to spelling tests and doodles with star stickers. I kept a blue binder, tabs for every year, printouts of account statements, notes scribbled in the margins like prayers. It lived on the top shelf of my closet, away from sticky fingers and some future crisis I naively believed wouldn't find us. It found us anyway. It came wearing chipped black nail polish and a smirk. Dylan, 20 years old, male, the boyfriend. He met us with a handshake that turned into a limp fist bump, called me ma'am, like he was playing a part. He smelled like gasoline and mint gum. He showed up in ripped jeans and that loud muffler I could hear 3 blocks away, each rev like a coffin church. He said he was between gigs. They had matching tattoos, tiny lightning bolts behind their ears, which she swore was, like, "Not a big deal, Mom, don't be dramatic." She started leaving textbooks face down in places textbooks shouldn't be, like the bathroom floor. Her laughter changed pitch, turned brittle around the edges. She stopped asking about dorms and started talking about real life. Mark, 47 years old, male, my ex and Ava's father, kept telling me not to overreact. "She's testing boundaries," he said, as if boundaries were a thing you could reset like a router. He's the kind of man who believes problems lose interest if you don't look them in the eye long enough. He sends checks and advice and keeps everything emotionally at arm's length, which is exactly how he's always survived. The night Ava made the announcement, I was making lemon chicken and she was wearing that oversized hoodie that swallows her. Gray, with a sun-bleached logo for some ski resort we'd never been to. Dylan rolled up out front and double-parked with his hazards on like the world was a minor inconvenience. The kitchen smelled like garlic, and all the parts of me that are soft were paying attention to the sizzling pan, while the steel parts knew something was coming because she couldn't keep still. She drummed her fingers on the counter. She kept checking her phone and not smiling. "I'm dropping out to marry Dylan," she said. Just like that. No warm-up, no apology. "You can't stop me at 18. My hands kept moving even when my brain didn't. I spooned sauce over the chicken as if that were the urgent task. The pan hissed. The fridge hummed. The clock ticked too loudly, and the lemon slices looked like little yellow moons staring back at me. She waited for an explosion. She used to be a little girl who cried when I looked disappointed. Now her chin tilted up in a way that looked like armor. "I hear you," I said, because that's what you learn in counseling when you're divorcing and trying not to obliterate the air your kid breathes. "I can't stop you at 18. Her shoulders dropped in relief, which hurt. It hurt because relief meant she'd been picturing me as the villain. Dylan honked outside, even though the door was open and the house lights were on. Of course he did. "But Ava," I said, turning off the flame, "I need you to hear me too. The college fund is for college." She rocked back on her heels, arms crossed, eyes glassy with anger. "That's my money." "It's for your education," I said. "Not for rent, not for a wedding, not for between gigs." I didn't say his name. I didn't want him inside the sentence. She laughed, sharp, shaky. "Wow, okay, that's manipulative." Behind her, the hallway mirror reflected both of us, my jaw tight, her hoodie a storm cloud. She grabbed her tote bag hard enough to snap the strap and it slapped the floor. On the shelf by the stairs, a framed photo of her in kindergarten, missing teeth, marker stains, fell forward and the glass cracked like a spiderweb spreading across her smile. I reached for it on instinct. She brushed past my hand. "I'm leaving," she said, eyes wet. "Don't call me. You can't control me." I wished her luck. I said it calmly, almost gently, like I was blessing a ship I knew wasn't seaworthy. Then I went upstairs, took the blue binder off the top shelf and slid it behind the stack of tax returns. My hands were shaking hard enough that the pages whispered, The house was quiet now, except for his muffler coughing her away. In the cracked photo downstairs, the little kid version of her was still smiling at me, and it felt like betrayal from a ghost. The night Ava left, I didn't sleep. Every sound outside felt like her car coming back, except it wasn't. It was just silence settling heavier and heavier. By morning, I knew she was gone for real because her room looked stripped, not lived in, makeup stains still on the mirror, but the dresser drawers yawning empty. She even took the mug that said future doctor from the campus bookstore. That one stung. For a while, I got updates through scraps. A cousin showed me Ava's Instagram, her and Dylan posing in his beat-up car, captions like "Ride or Die" and "Our empire starts now." They looked like kids playing house with no furniture. Mark texted me after she called him once for emergency money. He refused, which shocked me because usually he caves, but apparently Dylan had demanded it over speakerphone. He sounded high, Mark said flatly. By month 3, the cracks showed. Ava called late one night. Her voice small, tinny, asking if I'd consider releasing the college fund so they could get stable first. I told her no. She cried, then raged, then said I was choosing money over her happiness. I hung up shaking. 2 weeks later, Dylan came pounding on my door. Not her, him. It was a Saturday morning, neighbors out raking leaves, and he showed up in that too-loud car, leaning on my porch railing like he owned it. He reeked of weed and arrogance. "You got cash saved for Ava," he said. Not asked. Said. She told me. I stood there in my robe with my coffee cooling in my hand. "It's for her education, not for you." He laughed. High, nasal, cruel. "She's not going back to school. We're building a family. You either support that, or you're cutting off your own daughter." I shut the door in his face. He kicked it hard enough that a picture frame in the hall rattled. My heart jumped, but I didn't open it again. After a few minutes of muffler growls and shouted curses, he peeled off, leaving tire tracks across my curb. From then on, it escalated. Scratched paint on my car one night, a smashed garden gnome on the porch the next week. Ava texted after each blow-up. "He didn't mean it. He just feels like you don't respect him." Every time I read those words, I wanted to scream. Respect? The boy couldn't hold a job, couldn't keep his fists off my property, and now my daughter was trying to smooth it over like I was the problem. By month 5, Ava's Instagram turned quiet. No more cutesy captions, just blurry selfies, then nothing. I found out why soon enough. She came back, not home, but slinking into my driveway one gray afternoon, eyes swollen, sweatshirt hanging off her like it didn't belong to her. She didn't knock. She just sat on the porch steps with her head in her hands. When I opened the door, she whispered, "Mom, I'm pregnant," and he's gone. The world tilted, my knees locked to keep me upright. Behind her, the street was empty. No loud muffler, no Dylan. Just Ava, my baby, looking more like a stranger than ever. And then, after a long silence, she looked up at me with those same glassy defensive eyes she'd had the night she left and asked, "Do I still have access to the college fund?" Her voice cracked. Mine didn't. "No," I said. Her face crumpled, and the storm began again. "Don't forget to subscribe." Ava didn't just cry, she detonated. The porch step where she'd been sitting turned into a stage for a full meltdown. She went from sobbing into her sleeves to standing, pacing, shouting loud enough for the neighbors to peek out from behind curtains. "You don't even care about me," she screamed, voice hoarse. "You only ever cared about that stupid binder. All those years of control making me think I had to live your dream." She pointed at my house like it was guilty. "I hate this place. I hate you." When I didn't respond, she grabbed the ceramic flower pot by the door, the one she made in 6th grade art class, lopsided and ugly but precious to me. She hurled it across the driveway. It shattered into sharp little moons. My chest ached, but I stayed frozen. "Stop ignoring me," she shrieked and stormed inside before I could block her. The house shook with her fury. She yanked open cabinets, slammed drawers, tore photo frames off the walls. One of them, a family trip to the Grand Canyon, splintered as it hit the floor, glass exploding across the tile. I grabbed her wrist when she started up the stairs toward my bedroom. "Enough." She twisted, trying to break free, eyes wild. You're hoarding it. That money's mine. I need it, Mom. He left me. You don't get it. He left because you poisoned everything. You wanted this to fail. The words cut, but I held my ground. No, Ava. He left because he was never going to stay. That broke her. She sank down right there on the stairs, shoulders heaving, face red and wet. I stood above her, shaking but cold inside, because I realized in that moment, it wasn't just Dylan. Ava had learned to weaponize chaos. The next week, the escalation went public. She posted a shaky video on Instagram, swollen face, puffy eyes. My mom abandoned me while I'm pregnant and broke. She has money saved but won't help me. She cares more about control than her own grandchild. Within hours, my phone lit up with texts and calls. Relatives, old friends, even coworkers who hadn't spoken to me in years suddenly had opinions. How could you do this to her? She's young. She needs support. At work, my boss asked if everything was okay after someone sent him the video. At the grocery store, I heard whispers. That's her, the one who threw her daughter out while she's expecting. Ava, meanwhile, started camping on my porch. She'd show up with fast food bags and a blanket, belly barely showing yet, sitting there like a martyr. Neighbors complained, one even called the police after she screamed at them for judging. The officer, a tired-looking man, knocked on my door. "Ma'am, we can't make her leave unless you want to file trespassing charges." I almost said yes. But when I looked at her curled on the porch with her hoodie pulled over her face, I hesitated. That hesitation nearly cost me everything. Because a few nights later, I woke up at 2 a.m. to the smell of smoke. Ava had tried to cook something for herself in my kitchen while I slept, left the burner on and walked away. Grease fire. I ran down to find flames licking the pan and black smoke curling into the ceiling. I put it out with the extinguisher, coughing, heart pounding. The wall was scorched, the stove ruined. Ava stood frozen, eyes wide, muttering, "I didn't mean to." That was the moment I realized, this wasn't just drama. This was danger. After the fire, I made the call I'd been avoiding. "Ava, you can't stay here anymore." She froze in the smoke-stained kitchen, eyes red, hair wild. "So that's it? You're just dumping your pregnant daughter on the street?" "No," I said flatly. "I'll drive you to Mark's." Her father? My ex? She hated the idea immediately. "He doesn't get me. He doesn't love me like you should." "Then you'd better figure it out," I snapped, "because you nearly burned down my house." She screamed, sharp enough to make the neighbor's dogs bark. Slammed her fists against the counter. Then she bolted upstairs, grabbed a duffel, and stormed out, slamming the door so hard the frame cracked. I thought maybe it was over. I was wrong. That was only the beginning. 2 days later, I pulled into the office parking lot and saw spray paint across the hood of my car. "Selfish bitch," in dripping red letters. My stomach dropped. I knew exactly whose handwriting that was. That night, my neighbor caught her on his doorbell camera, stomping across my driveway, waving her arms, ranting to herself. He sent me the footage with a text. "Melissa, you need to get the cops involved. This isn't normal anymore." I filed a report. The officer took photos of the damage, nodded grimly. "If it escalates, call us immediately." It escalated within hours. She showed up at my job. Picture it. Monday morning, clients in the lobby and in storms. Ava, hair matted, belly showing now, screaming, "This woman doesn't care if her grandchild starves." She pointed at me like I was some monster on trial. "She's sitting on thousands while I'm pregnant and broke." People gasped. My boss rushed over, whispering, "Do you need me to call security?" "Yes," I said. My voice was steady, but inside I was shaking. 2 guards escorted her out while she kicked and thrashed, screaming curses at me so loud half the office heard them. I had to lock myself in a bathroom stall just to breathe. That night, my phone exploded again. Relatives spamming me with guilt. One even wrote, "You're cursed, Melissa. A child should never have to beg her mother like this." I wanted to scream back, "She's not begging, she's attacking." But instead, I stayed quiet. I started keeping records, photos of the car, screenshots of her posts, police report copies. Because I realized something important. If Ava wanted a war, she was giving me all the ammo I needed. The final straw came at 3 a.m. I woke to banging on my windows, sharp, violent. I rushed downstairs and found her on the lawn, barefoot, mascara smeared, holding a baseball bat. "Give me the money or I'll make you pay," she screamed, swinging the bat at my mailbox until it split in two. I called the police, shaking so hard I nearly dropped the phone. She was hauled off in cuffs, thrashing, crying, yelling that I'd ruined her life. Standing in the doorway watching the squad car lights fade, I finally understood. This wasn't my daughter anymore. This was a storm I had to contain. And that's when something inside me hardened. She wanted destruction? Fine. I'd give her something better. A lesson she'd never forget. Don't forget to subscribe. Update. Wow. I didn't expect my inbox to blow up like this. I posted about Ava's meltdown thinking maybe a handful of people would tell me I wasn't crazy. Instead, I woke up to hundreds of messages, some supportive, some brutal. First off, to the people saying I'm heartless for not handing over the college fund. I get it. On the surface, it looks cruel. Pregnant teenager, no support, and here I am with money in the bank. But let me be clear. This isn't about money. It's about the way she's chosen to weaponize chaos. Spray painting my car, nearly burning down my kitchen, showing up at my job to scream like I was Satan in a pencil skirt. That's not desperation. That's destruction. And to the commenter who wrote, "She's just a scared kid, meet her with compassion, not punishment." I hear you. But when that scared kid shows up at 3 a.m. with a baseball bat, compassion looks a lot like handcuffs. Some of you actually made me laugh, which I needed. My favorite comment. "Sounds like Dylan left because even his chaos budget ran out." I cackled. Because yeah, he bailed the second she needed more than gas money and gaslighting. Now here's the part you didn't see in the original post. The police officer who arrested her? He looked me dead in the eye and said, "Ma'am, keep documenting everything. If you want a protective order, you've got more than enough evidence." That stuck with me, because for months, Ava's been controlling the narrative. Posting videos painting me as some villain hoarding cash while she suffers. But what she didn't count on is that I've been building my own record. Photos, reports, timestamps. The binder upstairs isn't just a college fund anymore. It's a vault. Every threat, every vandalized thing, every meltdown, documented. So when people ask, "What are you going to do now?" Here's my answer. I'm done playing defense. Ava wanted to drag this into the public eye? Fine, let's go public, on my terms. The revenge isn't about hurting her. It's about flipping the script, making her face what she's done, not the sob story she sells online. And I've already started setting the stage. Let's just say the next time she tries to make me look like the villain, the whole town is going to see receipts she can't scream her way out of. The morning after Ava's arrest, I finally filed for a restraining order. It wasn't easy, walking into the courthouse with my hands still smelling faintly of smoke from that kitchen fire. But the stack of evidence I carried made it undeniable. Police reports, photos of the spray paint, screenshots of her online rants, even the video of her screaming outside my job. The clerk barely looked at me before stamping it. Temporary order granted. That piece of paper became my shield. And my sword. Because Ava didn't crawl into a corner after the arrest. No, she doubled down. She started texting everyone in our extended family, sending out paragraphs about how I'd abandoned her while pregnant, and was hoarding her rightful inheritance. She blasted me on social media again, this time showing her ultrasound photo and writing, "My mom doesn't care if her own grandchild has a roof over their head." It went semi-viral locally. A friend from high school sent me the post with a "WTF, is this about you?" caption. I wanted to cry. But instead, I uploaded my own set of receipts. Not on Facebook, not on TikTok. I went old school. I printed everything, every police report, every threatening text. Still shots of her holding the bat, grainy but clear. I slid them into a neat folder labeled, "For anyone who asks." And then I waited. It didn't take long. At Sunday dinner, my sister Claire cornered me. "Melissa, how could you abandon Ava like this? Everyone's talking about it." I handed her the folder. "Read it." She flipped through, her mouth dropping with every page. When she got to the bat photo, she went pale. She said, "You lied." "She lies," I cut in. My voice was calm. and I'm done letting her. Word spread fast. By the next week, instead of whispering in the grocery store, people were whispering about her. Someone even slipped one of the bat photos under Dylan's mother's door. She called me personally, voice trembling, to apologize for her son's role. That was my opening. I sent Ava a text. Short, cold. The fund stays locked until you're stable. If you keep lying publicly, I'll make sure everyone sees the truth. Stop now, or I stop being silent. She exploded, of course. Showed up outside Mark's house, her father, screaming at him to make me release it. She broke one of his porch lights with her fists. He finally called me, furious and shaken. Melissa, she's out of control. I answered simply, now you see. The revenge climax came 2 weeks later at her baby shower. She'd organized it with her friends, plastered invites all over Instagram, titled it, Celebrating Ava's Journey into Motherhood. What she didn't know was that several of those friends had already seen my folder. And they weren't buying the victim act anymore. Halfway through the event, when she tried her usual sob story about how her mom refused to support her, one of the girls piped up, "Didn't you get arrested for attacking her mailbox with a bat?" The room went silent. Ava's face crumpled. Someone else added, "I saw the video of you at her job." The whispers started. Phones came out. She panicked, shouted that it was all fake, then knocked over the cake in a rage before storming out. Frosting smeared across the floor like spilled blood. That was it. Her image, shattered, just like that lopsided flower pot she once threw. And for the first time in months, I breathed. After the baby shower meltdown, Ava went nuclear. 2 nights later, I woke to the sound of gravel crunching. I peeked through the blinds and saw Dylan's junk car back in my driveway, muffler coughing like a death rattle. He was back, and Ava was with him. They weren't knocking this time, they were unloading. Bags, blankets, a pack-and-play crib still in the box. She was moving herself back in by force. I stormed outside in my robe. "Get this junk out of here. You're not staying." Ava spun, belly pronounced now, hair wild. "You don't get to decide anymore. I'm having your grandchild. Legally, you'll owe us. Child support, housing, something." My blood went cold. "That's not how this works." Dylan puffed his chest, reeking of cheap beer. "She's right. You think you can hide money from her? She's entitled. We'll take you to court. Judges love moms with babies. You'll look like a monster." I actually laughed, bitter and sharp. "Go ahead, file. I've got police reports, restraining orders, and hours of footage. You'll bury yourselves." Ava snapped then, kicked one of her own bags across the driveway. "You want me homeless? You'd rather protect your stupid binder than your daughter." Neighbors' porch lights flicked on. Someone muttered, "Not again." Dylan revved his engine, tried to play tough, but when the cruiser pulled up down the street, because yes, I'd already called, their bravado collapsed. The officer didn't even hesitate. "Miss, you're in violation of the protective order. Pack it up, now." She screamed until her voice cracked, but they left. Not before Dylan spat on my mailbox. The cops saw it, wrote it up, another charge. After that night, Ava shifted tactics. She started sending group texts to family members, long, dramatic paragraphs about how she was fighting for her baby's future against a vindictive mother who wants to erase her. She even claimed I'd tried to push her down the stairs. Absurd, but enough to stir whispers. Mark called me again, exasperated. "She's telling everyone you're unfit. If she really goes through with filing for support, this could get ugly." I said only, "Then let it get ugly. I've got the truth." The truth came crashing in fast. A week later, Ava showed up at the hospital, early contractions from stress and malnutrition. Dylan wasn't even with her. He'd vanished again. Guess who got the call? Me. Standing in that fluorescent hallway, hearing her wail in pain, watching nurses rush around, it hit me like a punch. She was still my child. But I couldn't let that blind me. Because when she saw me through the haze of morphine, the first words out of her mouth weren't, "Mom, I'm scared." They were, "Will you finally release the college fund for us?" Even in labor, she was still playing the same game. I stood there, stone-faced, as monitors beeped, and the smell of antiseptic filled the air. "No, Ava," I said quietly. "Not for this. Not like this." Her scream wasn't just pain, it was fury, and I knew then the war wasn't close to over. Update 2. So, yeah, Ava had the baby. And no, things did not calm down. When I first posted here, some of you said, "Just wait. Once the baby's born, she'll either grow up or she'll use that child as a weapon." I wish I could say you were wrong. But you weren't. The birth itself was chaos. Dylan never showed. She texted him from the hospital bed and got nothing but red receipts. So who did she turn to? Me? I was the one standing in the corner when my grandchild screamed into the world. And I'll admit, it broke me. Tiny pink, fists clenched. I cried. I didn't want to, but I did. For a second, I thought maybe this was the reset button. Maybe holding her baby would snap Ava into reality. But the very next day, she asked me point blank if she could cash out the fund to set up a nursery and get a decent apartment. I said no, again. And that's when she shifted into her ugliest form yet. She posted another video online, holding the baby this time. My mom refuses to help us, even though she has the money. She'd rather see her grandchild suffer. That one spread even faster. People don't scroll past a crying newborn. I woke up the next morning to a knock at the door. Child Protective Services. Someone had reported concerns about my home environment, alleging I was abusive and controlling, and mentally unfit to be around a newborn. Guess who made the report? The CPS worker was polite but thorough, walked through my kitchen, my bedroom, asked me questions about my relationship with Ava. I answered calmly, showed them the restraining order, the police reports, even the folder of screenshots. By the end, the worker's face told me everything. This wasn't going anywhere. They knew exactly who was lying. Still, I was shaking after they left. Because Ava had crossed a new line, dragging government agencies into her war. And if she was willing to weaponize CPS, what was next? I read every single one of your comments after my last post. A few of you said I needed to go fully public. That staying quiet was letting her control the narrative. And you're right. That's when I decided my receipts folder wasn't enough anymore. I'm building something bigger, a full timeline. Every photo, every report, every time she showed up screaming or broke something, laid out from start to finish. And if she keeps using that baby as a pawn, then the world is going to see exactly who she is. Not the sob story she performs online, but the unstable, destructive reality. Some of y'all joked last time, drop the receipts like a Netflix docuseries. Don't tempt me, because at this point, I'm ready to put the truth where no one can ignore it. She wanted a war. Fine. But I'm not the one who should be afraid anymore. Ava came home from the hospital with the baby, and within 48 hours, she detonated again. She showed up at my place, baby strapped to her chest in a sling, pounding on the door with the side of her fist. "Open up, Mom. You can't ignore us now. We're family." I didn't move. I'd already installed cameras around the property after the baseball bat incident, and my phone buzzed with the live feed. There she was, screaming into the porch light, baby squirming against her chest. "If you don't let me in," she shouted, "I'll tell everyone you left your grandchild out in the cold." The neighbor's lights flicked on again. Someone yelled, "Take that baby inside, Ava." She turned, red-faced, and shrieked back, "Mind your business." When I finally cracked the door open just enough to be heard, I kept my voice steady. "Leave. You're violating the restraining order again." Her face twisted. "You wouldn't dare call the cops with your own grandchild here." But I did. Within 10 minutes, a squad car pulled up, blue lights bouncing off the windows. The officers were careful. One even offered to hold the baby while Ava was cuffed. She screamed, cursed me out in front of half the street, but they still hauled her away. The baby went to Mark for the night. That was the moment I decided the folder wasn't enough anymore. I had to end this. The next morning, I walked into our church community hall. Ava had always leaned hard on that circle for sympathy, playing the abandoned daughter card. I asked the pastor for 5 minutes at the next gathering. He hesitated, but when I laid the folder on the table, photos, reports, videos, his eyes widened. "Melissa," he said softly, "they need to see this." So I did. I stood in front of 50 people, neighbors, cousins, even Ava's old teachers, and laid it all out. Not with theatrics, just the truth. The spray paint, the fire, the job meltdown, the bat, the CPS stunt, slide after slide of her own chaos. The room was silent by the time I finished. Silent, except for the sound of phones buzzing as people whispered, "I'm sending this to so-and-so." By that night, screenshots from my presentation were circulating online. The same platforms Ava had used to smear me now carried the receipts of her destruction. Her carefully curated victim image collapsed overnight. Comments on her posts turned ugly. "This isn't what you told us. You risked your own kid. Girl, get help." She deleted everything within 24 hours. But it was too late. The damage was permanent. The sweetest moment? A knock on my door, not Ava this time, but one of her former friends holding a tray of baby clothes. "Melissa, we didn't know. We're sorry. Whatever happens, that child deserves better." For the first time in months, I felt like I wasn't alone in this war. But Ava? She wasn't finished yet. Because when the sympathy dried up, she tried something darker. She started whispering about custody, claiming I was manipulating Mark into taking her baby, that I was plotting to steal the child. And when she realized no one believed her, she made one last desperate move. She showed up at Mark's house at midnight, pounding on his windows, demanding he hand the baby over. And that's where things reached the point of no return. Ava's final spiral happened at Mark's house. It was just after midnight when my phone rang. Mark's voice was tight, panicked. "Melissa, she's here. She's trying to break in." I drove over faster than I should have, heart pounding, headlights carving through empty streets. When I pulled up, I saw her, my daughter, kicking at the side door with the baby carrier slung dangerously in one hand. The porch light flickered across her face, red and wild. "Give me my baby back," she screamed, even though the baby was in the carrier she was clutching. Mark was inside with the infant, refusing to hand her over because Ava was clearly intoxicated. Eyes glassy, movements jerky, reeking of alcohol even from the driveway. Neighbors were already outside, phones raised, recording everything. Someone shouted, "She's going to hurt that child." I called the police before I even got out of my car. By the time I reached the porch, Ava saw me and went feral. She swung the carrier like a weapon, thank God it was empty, and hurled it at the siding, the plastic cracking on impact. "You ruined my life," she shrieked. "You turned everyone against me." Blue lights painted the street moments later. Officers rushed her, pinning her arms as she screamed obscenities. The neighbors caught all of it on video, her thrashing, spitting, blaming me. And this time, she didn't just get a warning. They arrested her for endangerment, trespassing, and violating the protective order. As the squad car pulled away, I realized the war was finally over. She'd destroyed her own credibility, her own reputation, her own chance to keep control. The aftermath was brutal, but clean. The court extended my protective order to 2 full years. CPS, now fully aware of Ava's instability, approved Mark and me as temporary guardians for the baby while Ava faced mandatory rehab and counseling. For once, the system wasn't stacked against me. It was protecting the child. The sweetest revenge wasn't the folder, or the church presentation, or even the online collapse of her victim act. It was standing in that quiet living room days later, feeding my grandchild while Mark sat exhausted in the armchair, and knowing Ava couldn't twist the narrative anymore. The truth had been dragged into the light, and there was no taking it back. I still ache for the girl Ava used to be, the one who made that lopsided flower pot in 6th grade. But the woman who showed up with bats and lies and chaos? I don't miss her. And now, when I look at that baby sleeping peacefully in my arms, I know my job isn't to fix Ava anymore. It's to make sure her child never learns love through destruction. That's the closure. Not vengeance, not punishment, just breaking the cycle. And in its own way, that's the sweetest revenge I could have asked for.